Okay, so John, you're up next. Okay, here's a question for you, and I bet I know that you wish people would ask you this. Can I get all this done for the money that I have available to pay you?
That would be a fantastic question to ask. The problem is the world has changed a lot in the last 2 years, including obviously the renovation business, as most people understand, is I get 5 or 6 notifications a week about price increases on materials and stuff like that. So it's almost impossible for us to keep up, let alone expecting the average person to keep up. But having an open and honest conversation from the beginning of what your desired budget is would sure go a long way to getting to your results that you want a lot faster. There's nothing worse than going through, a whole shebang of renovation plans, duplex conversions, and then finding out we have a $40,000 budget when you couldn't buy the materials for that. So having an open and honest conversation about budget up front would sure save everybody a lot of work, and it'll make people a lot happier in the end. Again, it's one of those things that people are afraid to discuss because they think that they say their wrong number, they're going to get overcharged by a contractor. Well, I guarantee you the number you say is nowhere near what the contractor is going to say anyways. So say what your open budget is, and that way we can either educate you or we can figure out if this is going to work or what needs to be adjusted in order to make this happen. Sometimes it's just as a matter of changing selections a little bit. Sometimes it's a matter of changing how you approach the whole renovation. But that would be a fantastic conversation to have right up front.
I would imagine too that it has a lot to do with unrealistic expectations. It's just people think they can do a lot, and even if they did it themselves, they probably couldn't do what they wanted to do. It's just, as you say, things change, especially now things are changing so fast. But I don't think that people really have an understanding of just what it takes to make those renovations, even like structural things, because a lot of people are focused on the lipstick stuff, right? But it's structural.
Yeah. Obviously I'm an electrician, so I'm a big fan of what's behind the walls, and that's what I care about the most. And then I'll try to obviously push people towards doing the important part so it doesn't come back to bite them later. But I think one of the worst things that happens is they get bad advice from the get-go. Like, no one's going to expect you to understand how much things are going to cost. That's not the business you're in. So, but the problem is getting advice from the neighbor or your best friend that says that you can renovate your old house for $25,000, I think causes a lot of issues because they make a purchase going in with that budget assumption, especially if you're doing the BRRRR model. That's really important, because if you're going in with expectations and finding out that you can't do what you were going to do for this money, it causes a lot of problems. And then what I see is a lot of times people get desperate and they're starting to look for like the lower end contractors, and then that's where the disagreements and the lawsuits and all that happens. So I think getting good advice from smart people, or definitely people that understand the business, or investors that do this all the time, but just going and that's why I always promote working with a real estate agent that really understands what you're going after, what your goals are. The average standard real estate agent, not that they're bad people, but they might not understand a conversion process or a triplex or something, like what's going to go into them and zoning and all those things. So it's one of the biggest pieces I would say is just work with the experts.
Yeah, the other thing I want to add, John, because I think you said that really well. Obviously, you don't want to go for the cheapest option, but I think there's something to be said, like even for you as an example, like your team, you guys only work with investors, right? Like 99% of the time, otherwise you're doing a favor for an investor for their house, but you're working with investors, you're doing conversions, you're doing BRRRRs in areas where you understand the after repair value. So when you can help people run the numbers and understand what type of renovations in what areas make sense versus what, because over renovating, I think is a big issue that many newer investors, they pick very, very expensive materials or they over renovate. And if you're working with just any contractor, they may not tell you that is not a good idea, because you're not going to get your return. You're going to be sinking a lot of money that you're not going to be able to pull out on the refi. So thoughts on that?
I don't know how many times I've tried to talk people out of doing quartz countertops in a beginner Welland house, but yes, exactly. I have a client that we just finished up that was in your class. I'm not allowed to tell you about him. and they over renovated that crap out of their house. No matter how many times we tried to talk them out of it, but it's just sometimes they get so emotionally invested in their first rental property that they just keep going and going. For example, these people wanted to put 20 USB receptacles in a duplex conversion that cost $2,000. Not necessary.
Yeah.
And it happens quite a bit. That's why, like, I enjoy the education piece. I like working with the people and try to, steer them in the right direction for where you should put your money, because I will always talk you into putting in new wiring before I'm going to let you do quartz countertops, just because I know 6 months from now, if you have to fix it, it's going to cost you 10 times what it costs you to fix now. So 100% I agree with you. Working with, like, there's a few great contractors in this network, like Ken and stuff like that just do this. And those are the ones you want to work with. I find the most problems are the ones that, are looking for the Kijiji specials, that don't understand what you're trying to achieve. Like the Burrs, especially the last couple of years, if you don't know roughly a budget they can work with or a rough ARV, then it's going to be real hard to help them achieve their goals. And if, like for us, if you achieve your goals, you're going to buy more houses, you're going to do more business with you. So it's the working together as a team type thing.
Yeah, for sure. Keep the emotion out of it. You're not living in it, right? I mean, unless it's like your cottage that you're going to use here and there as for something along those lines. But the majority of the time, you're renovating it for it to be rented out. So you want to make sure that the product that you're using, materials are going to be tenant proof, but that you're not breaking the bank. And so thank you for that, John.
No problem.
Awesome.